Hey, amazing parents, how are you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk today about disrespect. The word disrespect, especially for parents of teenagers. There seems to be a I don't want to call it a conclusion or a general notion that teenagers can be quite disrespectful. So a lot of times, parents of teenagers come into the teenage years with a readiness to deal with disrespect. There's this readiness, like, oh, my teenager is not going to be disrespectful to me. There's that readiness, unconscious readiness, that many parents of teenagers come into the teenage years with. And on the teenagers side of things, it's not the word disrespect that comes through. It's kind of the word autonomy. Okay, I'm a teenager. I'm now seeking for more independence. I'm now seeking for more autonomy. So there's that's coming with also stepping into the teen years. So you can see the two angles. One is what parents are generally, I'm not saying all parents, but parents are generally expecting this teenager, you must still be compliant. You must still be this in my house. While teenagers are like, okay, I'm being independent. I'm going to start doing some things on my own, or, just there's that independence that they're already chasing as being just naturally. It's actually a natural thing for the teenagers. I think what I want to bring in this video is that gap of, let me call it the respect gap. And it's a thing of seeing, what do we as parents see as respect, and what do teenagers see as respect? There's a big gap in the understanding of respect that comes from the first place it comes from is from how we were grown, how we were brought up. That's one of the first gaps in the understanding and of what is respect and what is disrespect to a parent. So I'm going to come at this in two angles. I'm going to share something for parents, and I'm also going to share another angle for teenagers who are going to also be watching this video. So where does this conflict come from? It just comes from a misunderstanding. There's nobody that comes in with the goal to disconnect with their parents, or with the goal to disconnect with their children. None of us, from the parent side or from the teenage side, none of us come with the intention that, you know what, today I'm going to be disrespectful, or today I'm going to do something that will upset people. That's never the goal. So a lot of the misunderstandings is in the interpretation of what it is in the interpretation of the tone that comes across, in the things that we say, the interpretation. What angle are we interpreting it from? And when we see that we're interpreting it from one angle, the teenager is thinking or interpreting it from another angle, that's where the gap is. And so my desire today is to be able to give us some tools to be able to close that gap, bridge that gap, so that we can both understand where we're coming from. And I must say, before I get into the tools and the tips I'm going to share, this is not about advocating for permissive parenting. No. I want to shut that down before parents think, oh, Phinnah is going to tell me teenagers should be disrespectful. No way. No. No way. No. Teenagers shouldn't be disrespectful. I have children myself, and I would not appreciate children being disrespectful. But and in addition to that, I will not appreciate myself being disrespectful to them either. So it's a two-way street. Okay, let's start with number one. What a lot of times what parents tell me about the rude or the disrespectful behavior from their teenagers. Number one that is very common is the eye rolling. So teenagers, they will eye roll at their parents. Can I say this? In our days, and I know I'm not a big fan of in our days method, but I'm saying it here. There's context to that. In our days, when we were growing up, you just couldn't. You dare not eye roll, do that eye roll to your parents. It was just not a thing, because you would get into huge trouble with it. it was seen as disrespectful, and it is disrespectful. But I want us to see it from another lens. And I'm not saying our children are allowed and they should go ahead eye rolling at us. No, the gap here is to teach them what to do instead. A lot of times when teenagers have that eye rolling thing that's going on, it's from a place of frustration. It's from a place of, oh, they just don't understand me. They don't just get me. So in that space of they don't just get me, those eyes, it comes out through that behavior. And I call it like an emotional overflow. So in their cases, they're not trained or they're not used to suppressing their emotions. Growing up, compliance, obedience, all of that you had to, even if you felt like doing that eye roll, you would do it behind your parents, like, oh my word, you would do it behind their back. You would not dare do it in front of them. Okay. So it's the same thing. Our children, our teenagers, they probably felt misunderstood. They probably felt that you didn't understand what they said. So they were just like, in that motion, they're not, instead of them, they lack the emotional vocabulary. That's the word. They lack the emotional vocabulary to express how they feel in that moment. So because they lack the emotional vocabulary, they express it. It leaks out in their behavior. And then as parents, we get upset. How dare you look at me that way? How dare you eye roll me that way? That's disrespectful. I'm not going to tolerate that. And then the conflict continues. But here's a case that we can look at. Because we now know that this could be probably just a lack of emotional vocabulary, a lack of them having the skill to share what's frustrating them, we can become more curious. What's going on? I felt dismissed or I felt mocked at when you eye rolled, when you did that, your eye rolling thing at me. Tell me what's going on. You've used the I statements. You're not accusing. You're not saying you're disrespectful. You're rude. You're bad. You're not attacking their identity. You're being curious. I want to know why. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't appreciate that. I felt dismissed and disrespected. That curiosity, that opens the door for the conversations to happen. And you can then teach them. If you're okay, when they tell you, oh, I felt frustrated because you never get me. You didn't understand what I was saying. I was just trying to make my point. Okay, I get you. Okay, so you felt misunderstood or you felt not heard. Okay, then say that. I would rather you say, Mom, you didn't listen to me. Mom, I felt misunderstood. Mom, I felt that you weren't, I felt unheard. Tell me what you felt. Give them the space to express that emotion that they're feeling. Because the more our teenagers can express the emotion they're feeling, the more they can then pause. Okay, I'm frustrated. That I am frustrated is the gap between not saying it and acting out because they're frustrated. And that's what happens. So we have eye rolling. We have saying in quote whatever. Oh, that's what that one can trigger parents. The word whatever. And when they say that word whatever, they're not just saying whatever. They say whatever. So there's kind of a body language, an attitude that comes with it. Again, being curious about it. When a teenager is saying whatever, they've reached a point where they're thinking, there's no point. I'm trying to explain what I'm trying to say. They're not getting it. Or parents have concluded, I know you did this because you did this. I know you did this because of that. So it's almost as if you're concluding without giving them the opportunity to explain themselves further. Again, remember, parents, I'm not advocating for these things. I'm not advocating for eye rolling. I'm not advocating for using the word whatever. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just trying to get us to see the reasoning behind it so that we can then address it. Okay, that's really the key here. So A lot of times, teenagers get to a point like, you know what? There's no need of explaining anymore. I can't get through to him. I can't get through to her. So do you know what? Whatever. Okay, if that's what you say, whatever. They get to a point of resignation that they've resigned. They can't argue anymore. They can't justify it anymore. They can't explain anymore because we're not hearing them. We're concluding that they did it because we have a better reason why they did something. And so the teenager says, you know what, whatever. And when they say that whatever, there's a trigger to parents. How dare you say whatever? How dare you dismiss me when I'm talking? That's the gap. Did you see where I'm coming from? That's the gap. We feel disrespected. We feel dismissed. The teenager is feeling, you know what? There's no need to go further in this conversation. I'm shutting down. I'm resigning from this conversation. Do you see the gap? So the teenager is not coming and saying whatever because they want to disrespect you. They're just saying whatever because that's the language they use when they resign from something. When they just say, you know what? There's no need. That's what is happening over there. So now the way you can then help them and teach them the skill is, okay, talk to me. What's going on? What's going on? How are you feeling at the moment? What were you feeling at that moment? Okay, I felt I was talking to you, mom, and you didn't want to hear me out, or you're concluding, or you're making assumptions. Yeah, I felt you're not hearing me out, so I just don't want to continue the conversation. That's an explanation. That's how we can close that gap. And we say, okay, if you're saying I wasn't listening to you, or if I'm making conclusions, let me know. And then as a parent, I step back to say, okay, you go ahead. You tell me what you meant. You explain it fully to me. And if you're upset in that moment, then you know what? Let's talk about it later. Come back to me when you're calm and let's talk about it. That's how you teach teenagers how to handle things in the moment, because it's in our homes that teenagers are going to learn how to handle these things. If they don't learn how to handle situations like this in our homes, how are they going to handle it in the workplace? How are they going to handle it when their work colleagues are not listening to them, are not hearing them out? Are they just going to say, you know what, whatever, and then just move away? No. We want them to be able to say, you know what, I'd appreciate that you listen to me fully. I would appreciate that you give me a minute to explain what I'm trying to say. If you can give me a minute to explain what I'm trying to say, we can get to a healthy conclusion. This is what you want your teenagers to be able to do in the workplace. You want them to be able to advocate for themselves. You want them to be able to express how they feel in a respectful way so that they can get the results that they desire to get. If every time that they want to do something and all they say is whatever, whatever, they go to the workplace and be saying whatever, whatever, they're not going to get through. They're not going to succeed. They're not going to thrive because it's going to interrupt a lot of the relationships that they need in thriving in the future. So these practices starts with us at home. It starts with us teaching them the skill. Saying whatever is not the response, but accusing them and just shouting at them or telling them off, you're being disrespectful, how dare you tell me whatever. By the time we finish all that accusation and all that telling off, there's still the gap. There's still the skill that is not learned. Do you see where I'm coming from? So we've got to think about, what are we teaching our teenagers in that moment or around that situation? Slamming doors, or let me even say, the room doors. Some parents look at teenagers shutting their room doors as disrespectful. And that's because, again, many of us didn't have the privilege of having our own rooms or spending time by ourselves, and so teenagers sometimes just want some space. Teenagers sometimes just want some privacy. And there's nothing wrong with having some space and some privacy to think things through, to do what they want to do in that time. I'm not saying they should spend 24/7 by themselves. I'm just saying there's some times that it's healthy enough for teenagers to spend time by themselves. I used to do that when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. And I felt those were times you get to learn more about, you read, you form, little habits that you get to do, because that's part of the autonomy that naturally our brains as teenagers is thriving for. And so, yes, they spend time in their rooms. Talk to them about it if it's becoming excessive. Um, but don't feel disrespected. Don't feel they're keeping secrets. Don't make conclusions without being curious about it first. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to share with us in terms of the understanding behind it. Now, to my amazing teenagers, when your parents get triggered about when you eye roll or you back chat at them or you slam the door and all that kind of stuff, it's coming from a place of, I don't deserve disrespect. They look at it as disrespect. And to them, it's disrespectful because it's not an attitude that will help you in the workplace in the future. It's not an attitude that will help you in the future in your relationships, your friendships. It's not that. It's not a response that will help you in that. So sometimes when your parents address things like that, it's actually not that they're being against you. No. It's a skill that they're trying to teach you. And I know that sometimes it can come across as an accusation. And this is why I've just spoken to parents about being curious about the emotion or the emotional outburst and teaching you what to do instead. So when they come at you, they're not coming at you from a place of intentional disrespect when they tell you off about it. Now we're teaching how to actually speak about it. And in your situation, and in your case, I want you to understand where they're coming from. When your parents were growing up, they could not speak back or ask questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? They didn't grow up with that. And because they didn't grow up with that, they're not used to you challenging them. And that's where I want you as well to understand where they're coming from. Because when you can understand where your parents are coming from and your parents can understand where you're coming from, then guess what? We close the gap. We bridge the gap. And we're able to then avoid unnecessary conflicts. The healthy relationship you're going to have in the future, or even with your friendships, your friendship groups now and in the future, starts from the healthy relationship you have with your parents at home. So express to your parents when you feel frustrated, but make sure that you have practiced how to express it. You have calmed yourself down. You've paused, and then you can express, Mom, I feel frustrated about what happened. When you said this, I didn't like it. When you did this, I didn't like it. Express how you feel. And if it's not the right time to express it, then wait for the right time to express it. And then you express it. The more healthy expressions you have, the better and the healthier conversations you end up having with your parents. So that's what I thought I would share today. For parents and for teenagers, I trust that this has helped in one way or the other. I know that none of us want to be disrespectful to each other. We deserve respect between each other. And we can do that by talking to ourselves in respectful tones, by talking with each other and being respectful. Respect is a two-way street. It's not about only teenagers respecting parents. It's about parents also respecting teenagers. To teenagers, respect looks like being heard, being understood, being valued. To parents, respect looks like be respectful in your tone. Don't shout at me as your mom or your dad. Be respectful. Don't, give me all those attitudes. That's what it is. And together, as parents and as teenagers, together, we can come to understand each other and learn what respect means for each other and do that. The more we have this healthy respect, two-way street between each other, the better our lives are. So I trust this helps. Okay. Have you subscribed to my channel? If you haven't, please press the subscribe button, share this video, and let's continue to have conversations. I am looking forward to a world where parents, teenagers, young adults, where we are getting on and where we are doing things in respectful ways and building that relationship and growing together. I trust that this has helped. I really enjoyed sharing, and there's going to be more coming, more coming. So for teenagers, if there's something you want me to talk to parents about, let's go. Let me know. For parents, if there's something you want me to talk to teenagers about, let's go as well. Together, we can do this. Together, we can thrive. God bless you. And remember, I am rooting for you all the way. God bless you.